If you've ever heard of Microsoft failures, you're probably familiar with the Zune. It was a line of MP3 players that Microsoft sold in the mid-2000s in a bid to compete with Apple and the iPod, and they ultimately failed. But the Zune was arguably a bit more than just an MP3 player. Microsoft positioned it as a whole digital media brand, and part of that meant that there was a program that was a central hub for all of the Zune stuff, the Zune Software. So today, I want to look at that software and answer some questions, such as how does it compare to a physical Zune player, and what's it actually like? And those are some great questions, so let's get started. Now for some background, Microsoft had been trying to get into digital media for quite a bit of time. In 2004, they launched the MSN Music Store with its own sort of DRM thing to compete with iTunes. But in 2006, they discontinued that and shortly after introduced the Zune. Developed in close cooperation with Toshiba and registered as the Toshiba 1089 with the FCC, Microsoft made some big bets on the Zune. Shortly after the hardware players launched, the marketplace launched for it, and in 2007, they introduced new models. To understand how much they were hoping this would do well, they compared it to their introduction of Microsoft Office in the 80s. However, it wasn't enough. By 2009, people had their doubts in the Zune. A 2009 PC World article by David Kersey said that due to Apple's massive ecosystem and overall integration, it was not easy for any sort of other media player to compete, primarily due to their walled garden approach, and that players like the Zune or Palm Pre could actually possibly compete on merit if only Apple opened up the iTunes Store and whatnot to everyone else in the field. It also may or may not have been the best time to make big bets on a product because this was also around the same time that the global economy crashed. But regardless, Microsoft kept going until they decided to discontinue the Zune in 2011 after announcing that no new models of it would be made. It would be replaced by Xbox Video and Xbox Music in Windows 8, but this is arguably a great example of Microsoft trying to compete, but just falling flat, and probably one of many examples. In 2025, the last remnants of Microsoft's digital media attempts were shut down, and by all extension, Microsoft has fully exited the digital media market, probably to put their minds more towards other ventures. And that's not to say that the Zune was a bad piece of technology. However, you've got to take into account multiple factors when you're trying to compete against Apple. And that, coupled with the economic crisis happening midway through the Zune's existence, maybe also didn't help, but I can't be 100% sure. Regardless, it's remained a popular thing in Microsoft culture, and for those of you who have dug through a lot of my ancient videos, you probably know that I've made a video on the Zune before, and that I have a Zune. The problem is, its battery came from a marshmallow factory, and after that video came out, I wasn't able to use it anymore. But I still have the software. So now let's talk about that software. So I'm going to be looking at version 4.8 here on Windows 7, as I think that the end versions of programs are kind of quite interesting. While you can install this program on newer versions of Windows, it requires special dependencies that aren't normally installed on Windows anymore, and it may not be a very smooth experience. Likewise, I don't usually use newer versions of Windows to look at programs in my videos. So there is something I should address real quickly, and that's an interesting piece of integration that the Zune software has with Windows 7. Look at my libraries folder as well as my user folder. Does something look different? No? Let me tell you what's different here. The podcasts library and the podcasts folder. These normally have never existed on any Windows version. Maybe on a version of macOS, but I can't be 100% sure. And that's because the Zune software creates these folders. It retroactively does so on pre-existing user accounts, and if I go create a new user account here, let's just call it John because I have no other idea of what to call it, you can see that when I log in, there's a podcasts folder and a podcasts library. Sadly, that's where this sort of integration ends. There is no sort of podcasts library in Windows Media Player, and there's no podcasts page on Windows Media Center. Not even in the extra section where there's Battlefield Bad Company 2. And there's no sort of podcasts option in the start menu options. Well, I guess that while we're logged into a new user account, let's look at the first time run too. We have either a quick express setup option or a more detailed one, and I'm going for the more detailed one here. It provides media locations options, file type associations, and unnecessary customer improvement program thing. Likewise, to get started, it tells you to select 3 artists. Or not. Well, I suppose we should probably go get onto my main user account so that I can go actually use this program with my media library on here. Probably something you may have noticed with this already is the presence of a different UI style. And that is Metro. Microsoft had been playing around with this design language prior to Windows 8 with a more flat and soft gradient design that looks more calm, confident, and relaxed, and looks a lot better compared to other companies' Stupid flat designs. Regardless, it is still arguably a bit of a footnote here. So, there's a quick play option, which we'll get back to later. It's generally the homepage for this program, so nothing of real note here until later. There's also the collections page, which features options for music, video, pictures, podcasts, and channels. According to the software itself, a channel is a themed, automatically refreshing song list for use with the Zune Music Pass. When you subscribe to a channel, you can listen to it, sync it with your device, even save it as a playlist in your collection. It will be updated, and it is free of charge to Zune Music Pass subscribers. This being Microsoft's subscription service for the Zune. Also, real briefly of note, is the Marketplace. This was basically where you would go to get music and Windows Phone 7 apps. It doesn't work anymore, and neither does social, so we're not going to look at it. There's also Smart DJ. Intended to be a sort of music discovery feature, it was quite popular among Zune users, at least of the Zune software, where it was then later ported to the Zune HD. It could add music from the Marketplace if you had the Zune Music Pass, but without it, you get a sort of fancy, personalized music playlist, similar to YouTube's My Mix stuff. And I think it is quite a smart thing because it selected one of my favorite songs immediately. There is also, additionally, the device page, which provides a summary of things on your device, but in order to actually check a lot of the stuff, you need to connect it. The Zune software was intended to work alongside not only the Zune players, but also the Microsoft Kin failure, as well as devices with Windows Phone 7. There's also the burn list with this disk option, as well as a playlist option. In the collection thing, videos are integrated with Windows Live Movie Maker, where you can then select a video and then edit it in the program, and photos can be viewed and edited in Windows Live Photo Gallery. But that's about it for the program itself. So, to conclude, the Zune software is actually quite similar to an actual Zune hardware player. It offers the same sorts of media library controls and options, a home screen, and now discontinued marketplace and social functions. It's a great insight into what this platform was like if you can't really afford to own a Zune, don't want to risk owning a Zune, or if you're like me, had a Zune that just the battery went bad in. Because of its online functions being shut down all the way back in 2015, this program mainly serves as a sort of fancy Microsoft media player. And I'm fine with that. It's a great option for media playing, especially when compared to Winamp or VLC. And be aware, I don't use Spotify. I don't like these streaming services, and so I think this is a great option. Anyway, do you still use this software? If so, what's your thoughts on it? Did you have a Zune back in the day, or do you have a Zune? If so, what's it like? I should already know what it's like, but mine's battery went bad. Do you have any sort of memorable experiences with a Zune? Is there something I forgot to address or something I should do to improve my content? If you have anything to say, feel free to let me know down below in the comment section, through my email, or through my Discord server, and feel free to give this video a like. But that's going to be it for this video, so thanks for watching, and have a nice day.